Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, Crushing Difficulty walkthrough, and this is chapter 4, also known as the Western Ghats, and this video is part 1 out of 2. Because this is by far the game's absolute longest chapter. And there are quite a few side quests in this part of the game that you can take on if you want to. But for the purpose of this walkthrough, I am just gonna focus on the main storyline. Because there are 11 Hoysala tokens, they're called, that you can go out to find. You have to solve a few puzzles to get through to some of them. And it's quite fun, but this walkthrough is based around getting you through crushing, and to do that you don't need the Hoysala tokens, you just need to conquer 3 towers. And the reason I decided to divide it into 2, as I said, it's a very long chapter. This first video is 28 minutes long, I think, and part 2 will be around 20 minutes. And also one thing I need to address before we get too far into it is the fact that I have edited out almost all the driving sequences in this, because we're climbing this tower to unlock doors so we can get the towers we need to go to up on our map. And I've edited out the driving sequences in between, because when I recorded this chapter I had to record it in sequences because I've had a lot of stuff to do over the last few days, and I didn't have time to sit and record this entire chapter in one sitting. And also I am absolutely terrible at navigating this area. And also, in this area there are a few instances where there are enemies. But if you just continue driving, you will get away from them. They cannot kill you while you're in the jeep, unless if you linger for too long. They will not have a chance to gun you down. So if you run into enemies, just step on it, get out of their line of sight, and they will lose track of you, and you can continue onwards to your next tower. But this chapter is also focused a lot around progressing the story, as a lot of time spent in this game is about progressing the story and telling a quite emotional story and somewhat beautiful story as well. Also, quick note, when you've opened all these doors, or the doors you can open, and unlock this elevator in the middle, if you continue upwards, one of the doors is a bit broken down. If you climb up on that and up to the tower, up to the top of the tower, you can unlock a trophy called Your Prize. And you unlock it by getting up to the very top and standing there for maybe 2 minutes. If you press circle, you get a little cutscene and you will unlock the trophy. But some of these towers can be quite difficult to get through, because as you saw in chapter 3, enemies in this game are really aggressive. I'm gonna show you the best techniques I found, and through the magic of editing, I have suddenly moved from that middle tower down to the one in the left corner. I'm gonna do these towers counterclockwise. And once again, I have also edited out the lockpicking. Because going through this game really strengthens my opinion that the lockpicking is a really stupid mechanic to have in it. It doesn't feel a function. I don't think it's fun. It's really basic. As I said, you can't fail it, but when you have to do it in the middle of a fight, especially on crushing, I think on one of these fights I tried to pick a lock, and the enemy spotted me during the lockpicking animation, and I didn't have time to get out of it and get into cover before they gunned me down.
You were talking.
So it just puts unnecessary stress on you.
Coming. Copy that.
And in chapter 2 of this game, they said that they wanted to avoid using crates, which I think is really fun because it's a mechanic we're used to in Uncharted games, especially in Uncharted 4. Everything was accessible via crates. But it feels a bit like they replaced it with pulling gates down with this cable. You're gonna do that a few times. It's not a lot of times, I think it's maybe 3 or 4, but they take out one thing and change it out with another one. But this is the first tower we're going into. I think this is called the Axe Tower. And there are 2 enemies up on a cliff right here in front of me. I'm just checking up to see if they have spawned in yet. And what you should do here is go back on the back side of this pillar so you can sneak up on them, because their focus is at the front. And that is something that's really good about this game, because enemies don't just pop out of thin air. You feel that they move to areas via their trucks or by on foot, is what I was gonna say. And it feels motivated when they show up. Because in the first game, you know, when you enter that old catacomb tomb thing, no one has been in there for hundreds of years and suddenly there's lots of enemies. And this is a little bit of a mistake on my behalf. Don't waste 2 bullets on him. Instead, just try to get up here as fast as possible. I died on my first attempt, and the second time I didn't want to risk it. So I fired 2 bullets, but if you're really quick, you can get up before he manages to kill you. And you will go into the next fight carrying 5 bullets instead of 3 like I do. And the fight coming up isn't very hard. Or it's not extremely hard, but it can be a bit difficult if you get unlucky. But with my help and your own skill and cunning and ability to adapt to situations, you will prosper and you will persevere. And in my previous episode I started talking a little bit about Nadine and that she can be helpful, but I got interrupted by an enemy tossing a grenade, so I lost focus and started talking about that instead. So I'm gonna finish what I was gonna say about Nadine. Nadine can be great at times. Nadine can be completely useless at times. As AI companions always are in these games. She can kill enemies, she will do it at times. But sometimes she can also be a great nuisance, because she has a tendency to cockblock you at the worst possible moments. Also, quick note here. These 2 enemies, if you place your grenade better than I did, you can take them both out with 1 grenade. I failed miserably on this attempt. I did a few attempts earlier. Sometimes I hit him, sometimes I didn't. I think the guy that survived has some kind of body armor. At least he has a helmet, so I think he's a bit more resilient. So if you want to take them both out with the grenade, just throw the grenade closer to him. Make sure it's closer to him than the other guy. And the guy that we actually did manage to kill was carrying a desert eagle. And that is a thing we need to remember, as I fail miserably at placing a headshot on that last guy. And now the fight kicks off. Try to stay in cover for as long as you can. One enemy is gonna rush you over here from the left. I'm gonna try to go down and see if I can save my bullets and just take him out via melee. And it worked beautifully. And then I think oh, here comes another guy. Well, he follows his friend. Misery loves company and all that. And now most of the enemies are actually dead. Went quite quick. 2 guys are gonna stand over there on your right. And I think Nadine takes out one of them. See. And the best part about hanging on this ledge is the fact that they are gonna have a really hard time hitting you with grenades. So if anyone manages to throw a grenade your way, just drop down a little bit and you should survive. If it gets really close, Chloe may lose her grip and you will fall to your death and have to restart. Because this is also one of those fights where there are no mid-battle checkpoints. Crushing difficulty in these games are more like the ones like grounded mode in The Last of Us. Sometimes there are checkpoints, sometimes they are almost absurdly generous with them, but this is not one of those moments. And now there's just one enemy left. So, as I said, that guy that we killed first, he had a Desert Eagle, so I'm gonna pick that up. I'm not gonna use it in this fight, because that guy that's still left, he has a grenade launcher, which I want, and I pulled his attention over there. He saw me standing out there and disappearing around the corner, so he thinks I'm still in that area, or maybe he's shooting at Nadine. Either way, his focus is over on that side, and I'm gonna use that to my advantage and flank him. Because, as I said, he has a giant lake. If he hits me, I'm dead. And he's also heavy, so if I try to get in too close and personal, he's gonna kill me. But he didn't see me coming up from underneath him. So pick up his China Lake, and we're gonna keep that and the Desert Eagle. Because they are great weapons. Power weapons in this game are absolutely amazing. So now I have 7 bullets for the Desert Eagle, and I have 6 grenades for the China Lake, and that is gonna serve me very well in the next tower coming up after this. And at the end of every tower, or all of these 3 towers, there is a little puzzle. You're gonna complete a symbol linked to one of the Hindu gods. As I said, I think in this one it is an axe. They are very easy. You can just follow the way I'm doing it, or pause the video for a few seconds and try to figure it out for yourself. It's not that difficult, and that is something I really like in this game, which I think is almost the best part of it. Even though it is a good game overall, but I really like the puzzles in this game. For the purpose of this walkthrough, I have used puzzle guides for some of them, just to help you unlock, and help myself, of course. Let's be honest, I am a trophy hunter. I love getting trophies. As of now, I'm going for the platinum on this one. All that remains for me to get the platinum is getting all the collectibles. Using a collectible guide for it. Not ashamed to admit that, because we all know my opinion on collectibles. Oh, they're so stupid. Oh, and it's lazy programming. I've talked about it at great length, so I'm not gonna rant on about it. But I'm using a collectible guide. I'm going through the game on much lower difficulty. I have beaten it on crushing. I have nothing left to prove now. I just want to get through it as fast as possible and get that sweet platinum. And I think it will be my 33rd one. That was amazing. I had almost solved the puzzle and decided to go the wrong way. Anyway, it's open, and we have a bearded guy. So after this is completed, all you need to do is go back down, and as in all good games, when you have gotten through a big passage, they always give you a quick exit. That is something, actually, when I played Dishonored 2, I thought about that, because through my entire playthrough of Dishonored 2, there was something bugging me. And I couldn't really put my finger on what it was, and then I realized it was the design of the levels. Because in Dishonored 1, the game had quite ingenious ways to make you take another path back to where Sam... Was Sam he was called? I think he was called Sam. Where he was supposed to pick you up.
Hey,
But in Dishonored 2, in most of the games, you would just retrace your steps and more or less run through it just because all the enemies are dead. And once again, through the magic of editing, suddenly we're over on the furthest east side of the map. If you want to see exactly where I am, feel free to pause the video and just check. And now we're going into... this is actually the hardest part of Chapter 4. It is quite a long fight, and the geography of this area is really fun, because this is a really dynamic battle arena. There are a lot of height differences, there are things you can hide behind and under, there are windows you can jump through and all that good stuff. But sadly, if you're playing this game on crushing, if you try to utilize all the cool geography in this place, you're gonna get punished. 9 times out of 10, the game is gonna punish you. And it punishes you by killing you. And there is also an ultra heavy in this fight. You can hear him right now. He's using an amazingly big gun. And he's coming our way. And that is where we're gonna put the China Lake into play. But these 2 pillars I'm standing behind right now, I'm standing behind right and moving over to the left. This is a great piece of cover, because you can more or less bottleneck enemies. The only time they can flank you is from your left. But if you're cautious, and always keep an eye on the left side. I don't do it right now, and one of the enemies is gonna manage to flank me. But stay behind this cover, because this cover also can't be destroyed. I mentioned in one of my previous videos that most covers in this game are destructible. Ah, here comes the ultra heavy. So let's introduce him with our grenade launcher. I think it takes 3 grenades to go down. Or maybe it's... yeah, I think it's 3. Actually it took 4, but I think 2 of them weren't direct hits. If you manage to hit him straight in the chest, I think you'll take him out in 2 or... no, in 3 grenades. And also one thing in this game, or that has been semi-consistent for all of these games, but is more apparent in this game. And something I can't bring myself to agree with it. Here comes the guy who flanked me, and Nadine got his attention so I could go in for a melee kill. But the thing I can get hung up on in this game sometimes is the fact that there is lots of high grass, there are lots of trees, there are lots of leaves. Nature has gone wild. And it's beautiful. Absolutely amazing. Very vivid geography. But when you go into combat, you can't see shit. Honestly. You see how much my view is obscured by all this foliage? And I think all the enemies are dead right now. Nope. No, there are still 2 or 3 guys left. But anyway, the foliage and the leaves and the grass and all that stuff, it gets in your way. You can't see enemies. You may have a real hard time seeing it. Like this. There are branches hanging in the way, but enemies can still see you. They must have some kind of built-in heat vision predator style, because they know exactly where you are, even if you're standing behind 10 feet high hedges and you're firing desperately and they're standing like, oh, there she is, and you have no idea. You're just spraying and praying and hoping that you're gonna hit them. And I think that is something they should change, because I don't have a problem with the fact that enemies have great aiming in this game, but they shouldn't have great aiming when they don't have anything to aim at. When they have lots of shit in the way, that should nerf their aiming, or it should make them have a harder time. But no, they don't, and that can make the game feel very unfair at times, as I'm running around here trying to get in a good position, because the snipers are actually quite a bit more dangerous in this game than in the previous installments, or in the first trilogy, because they don't take as long as they did in those games to line up their sight, and also there are no mid-battle checkpoints in most of these fights. This is also one of those fights where there are no checkpoints. If you die on the very last enemy, you're gonna have to restart sitting in that high grass like nothing ever happened. And since this fight takes around maybe 10 minutes, that is extremely annoying to have to replay. And that is one of the reasons why I could never be a speedrunner. I've talked a little bit about that in previous videos. That in the remastered versions of the first 3 games there are some speedrunning chapters. And I enjoy watching speedruns. I hate performing them. Because speedrunners, they play through a game thousands of times, and one little mistake and they have to restart the game if they're going for world records or personal bests or whatever. And I don't have the patience for that. I could never do it. I've done a few speedruns. I've done speedruns of the chapters in the first trilogy, as I said, and also did a speedrun of Uncharted 4. I'm so glad there isn't a speedrun trophy in this game. And the trophy that I got just now, I think it's called Did You Count Them in English? That is for killing an enemy with the last bullet of your weapon. I don't know if it needs to be specifically a handgun or if it can be a rifle, but that's why I got it. I kill him with the last bullet of my Desert Eagle, and it felt very satisfying. But as I said, speedruns and playing long sessions without any checkpoints. Some people like it. I'm not a big fan. It can at times be fun because it puts you more on edge. It makes you really bring out your A game because you know the stakes are high. You're getting 15 minutes into a fight, you know there are no checkpoints, you really need to bring your A game. But if you make one little mistake, you may have to restart that entire fight. And don't get me wrong, I think when you're playing a game on its highest difficulty, the game should punish you. The game should punish sloppy gameplay. If you make mistakes, it should hit you, and it should hit you hard. But come on. We have a fight that takes 15-20 minutes. That's not fun, and I think that can deter a lot of people from trying the highest difficulty level, because they don't want to risk having to redo huge segments of gameplay where the enemies also have perfect aim even through all that green stuff growing. So maybe a checkpoint halfway through could have been great, at least after you've taken down the ultra heavy. But now what we're gonna do, now that all the enemies are dead, of course I'm gonna run around and loot the battlefield, and I'm also gonna look for Mr. Ultra Heavy's ultra heavy rifle, because that is gonna serve us really well in the second part of this fight, or when we need to get back, because more enemies are gonna spawn in, and the strategy I use for that fight, I'm gonna put this big gun into play. And that is also a good thing about this, because you can carry this and also a rifle and a pistol. But you cannot jump, you cannot run, instead you just walk around like Terminator. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger when he has that giant minigun in Terminator 2. But this has about the same damage output as that minigun does as well, so it's gonna serve us well if you use it wisely. You have 70 bullets, and you can put a lot of damage on enemies with 70 bullets and a huge fucking gun. So I'm gonna put it down right here. And sometimes when you restart the second part of this fight, when we come back, that gun may despawn. But if you reload the checkpoint, it should repopulate.
What's this?
And your gun will show up.
That's
So
a good
if
sound.
it disappears,
One of the spokes on the wheel
just
has turned
reload the
around.
checkpoint. There is a checkpoint between the first and the second fight. And now that we have activated that door, we're gonna have to find 5 of these boat wheel
How
things
about
to open the 5 locks on it.
That's
And you're
true.
also gonna see a horrible transition coming up very soon, because I thought I had mapped them out, that I knew where every one of these symbols were. Turns out that I didn't. So
another
I've
one.
edited out about 5 minutes of me
Radar.
running around like an idiot, searching desperately for one of them. And the funny thing is, I was really close to it. You're gonna see it when I climb up the wall of this little building behind me. I was gonna pick up the China Lake, because I have 2 grenades left and I'm gonna put them to good use in the second fight. So I have the humongous gun, I have a China Lake, and I have a pistol. See that? Horrible transition. But on my first run over that roof, I went to the left instead of the right. So I ran around here forever, it seemed. Or it felt like. I think when I edited it out, it was like 3 minutes. Felt like 30. And that is interesting sometimes when you're editing. I was thinking a lot about how I was gonna edit this episode. My plan was to have totally perfect transitions between the maps, or between me looking at the map, but I didn't take into account that the area you're in and angle you're in changes the appearance of the map. So it didn't
Last
look
but not
as
least.
smooth as I wanted it to, but
that should
what
do
can
it?
you do?
Okay. Back to the big
At least I edited
big-
out all the
wheel
driving,
thing?
and you don't need to see the driving. It's just,
big wheel
it's like
thing
in the
works.
4th game. It's some exposition, you get to see the beautiful terrain of this area, but you don't need to see that to get through this game. Instead, let's focus on these a bit more potentially difficult parts. Anyway, now we have unlocked all 5 of these locks.
Hey.
And we can go into the second symbol. This is a trident. And once again, I invite you to pause the video
I'm guessing this one
for
needs to look
a
like
minute or
trident.
two and
Good
try
guess.
this puzzle for yourself. And also some of the puzzles coming up further into this game. There is a puzzle at
This one's a bit
the
trickier.
3rd tower I'm going to, which is my absolute favorite in this game. I think it was really fun the first time I did it. It took me quite a bit longer than it will
sir.
be in the video. But I'm not gonna spoil it. You'll see it in my next episode. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.